Business is a combination of war and sport. Without a family, man, alone in the world, trembles with the cold. If you create an act, you create a habit. If you create a habit, you create a character. If you create a character, you create a destiny. A gentleman is never in a hurry. The effectiveness of work increases according to geometric progression if there are no interruptions. Art is an effort to create, beside the real world, a more humane world. Men fear silence as they fear solitude, because both give them a glimpse of the terror of life's nothingness. Novelty, the most potent of all attractions, is also the most perishable. We can talk frankly about our defects only to those who recognize our qualities. A successful marriage is an edifice that must be rebuilt every day. Growing old is no more than a bad habit which a busy person has no time to form. We appreciate frankness from those who like us. Frankness from others is called insolence. In literature as in love, we are astonished at what is chosen by others. We owe to the Middle Ages the two worst inventions of humanity, romantic love and gunpowder. Above all things, never be afraid. The enemy who forces you to retreat is himself afraid of you that very moment. What men call friendship is only social intercourse, an exchange of favors and good offices. It comes down to a commercial dealing in which self-esteem always expects to profit. The art of reading is in great part that of acquiring a better understanding of life from one's encounter with it in a book. Writing is a difficult trade which must be learned slowly by reading great authors, by trying at the outset to imitate them, by daring then to be original, by destroying one's first productions. The first recipe for happiness is avoid a lengthy meditation on the past. Memory is a great artist. For every man and for every woman it makes the recollection of his or her life a work of art and an unfaithful record. Love born of anxiety resembles a thorn shaped so that efforts to pull it out of one's flesh merely cause it to penetrate more deeply therein. There are certain persons for whom pure truth is a poison. To human beings anchored to one another are like to ships shaken by waves. Their carcasses collide with one another and creak. If men could regard the events of their own lives with more open minds, they would frequently discover that they did not really desire the things they failed to obtain. An old man, having retired from active life, regains the gaiety and irresponsibility of childhood. He is ready to play, he cannot run with his son, but he can totter with his grandson. Our first and last steps have the same rhythm. One has very little influence upon one's children. Their characters are what they are, and one can do nothing to change them. Like a bird, when his cage is opened, stays on his perch, dazzled by freedom, the postponed traveler does not see that his cage, with its bars of anxiety, it is open. An unsatisfied woman requires luxury, but a woman who is in love with a man will lie on a board. A friend loves you for your intelligence, a mistress for your charm, but your family's love is unreasoning. You were born into it, and are of its flesh and blood. Nevertheless, it can irritate you more than any group of people in the world. The art of growing old is the art of being regarded by the oncoming generations as a support and not as a stumbling block. For intelligent people, action often means escape from thought, but it is a reasonable and a wise escape. Either the soul is immortal, and we shall not die, or it perishes with the flesh, and we shall not know that we are dead. Live, then, as if you were eternal. A true woman loves a strong man because she knows his weaknesses. She protects as much as she is protected. The minds of different generations are as impenetrable one by the other as are the monads of Leibniz. People are what you make them. A scornful look turns into a complete fool a man of average intelligence. A contemptuous indifference turns into an enemy a woman who, well treated, might have been an angel. To be witty is not enough. One must possess sufficient wit to avoid having too much of it. The clear and simple words of common usage are always better than those of erudition. The jargon of the philosophers not seldom conceals an absence of thought. We don't go to school to learn, but to be soaked in the prejudices of our class, without which we should be useless and unhappy. The greedy search for money or success will almost always lead men into unhappiness. Why? Because that kind of life makes them depend upon things outside themselves. Learning is nothing without cultivated manners, but when the two are combined in a woman, you have one of the most exquisite products of civilization. Lost Illusion is the undisclosed title of every novel. Self-pity comes so naturally to all of us. The most solid happiness can be shaken by the compassion of a fool. Time is a factor in all action. An imperfect scheme put into action at the proper time is better than a perfect one accomplished too late. The difficult part in an argument is not to defend one's opinion, but rather to know it. The most important quality in a leader is that of being acknowledged as such. All leaders whose fitness is questioned are clearly lacking in force. Men and women are not born inconstant. They are made so by their early amorous experiences. A great writer has a high respect for values. His essential function is to raise life to the dignity of thought, and this he does by giving it a shape. He who has found a good wife has found great happiness, but a quarrelsome woman is like a roof that lets in the rain. A marriage without conflicts is almost as inconceivable as a nation without crises. Almost all great writers have as their motif, more or less disguised, the passage from childhood to maturity, the clash between the thrill of expectation and the disillusioning knowledge of truth. Lost Illusion is the undisclosed title of every novel. Old age diminishes our strength. It takes away our pleasures, one after the other. It withers the soul as well as the body. It renders adventure and friendship difficult, and finally it is shadowed by thoughts of death. British conversation is like a game of cricket or a boxing match. Personal illusions are forbidden like hitting below the belt, and anyone who loses his temper is disqualified. When you become used to never being alone, you may consider yourself Americanized. Modesty and unselfishness. These are the virtues which men praise and pass by. To reason with poorly chosen words is like using a pair of scales with inaccurate weights. Woman's great strength lies in being late or absent. Presence immediately reveals the weak points of our beloved. When she is absent, she becomes one of the sylph-like figures of our adolescence whom we endowed with perfection.